All right. And um and here we go. Everybody, welcome to the Nature Journal Workshop with your hosts, John Muir Laws and Avea Moore. We have a special guest today, Valerie Bayer, who is going to be talking to us about a really cool opportunity coming this year at a national park near you, or perhaps far away from you, but still worth going to. And we're going to be playing with bears today. It will be a lot of fun, and we're really, really glad that you're here. Before we do that, let's just take a look at some opportunities coming up in the wide, wide world of nature journaling. Connecting with other nature journalers around the globe, online and in person, is a great thing to do, and we want to share some of those opportunities. What's up, Ave?
I am so glad that you asked. First of all, hello, everybody. It's really good to see all of you. I am oh so excited for today. Um,
Oh,
more
did,
bear fun.
did you see that? Did you see that? Okay.
So, bear puns start now, and other things happening now in the nature journaling community. So there's a lot of trips coming up, also a lot of classes coming up, and these things range. Some are free, some cost, but we try to have a really big range so that people can access at least something in this community. One last thing, speaking of FOMO, um, I know that I know that people we all have busy lives, and sometimes people are here and then sometimes they have to go away for a while and they come back. And I know, and I always hear people say, I'm so sorry I haven't been here. I want people to not worry about that anymore. So everybody knows, no matter where you are or how much or how little you're here, your seat's saved. Your seat is here. You always have it. Nobody else is going to sit in it. You can do your life and your seat's still going to be here. It's not going to go anywhere. So nobody has to worry about missing out. I just want people to know that. I'm going to pass it on now to Jack and to Valerie, and I'm going to let Valerie do the awesome announcement about what's happening from June 19th to 21st. I wanted to make sure I got the right date. Okay, I'm going to pass it to you all. Again, thank you everybody for being here. Happy first month of 2024.
Thank you so much, Ave. Um, so we've got a special guest on. So Valerie is a really amazing part of our nature journaling community. One of the things that that Valerie does is, if there's anybody anywhere in the world who's starting a new nature journal club, sometimes it's a little bit scary. What do I do? It's like, you may be thinking of starting one yourself, but you're thinking, oh, what are some of the lessons learned on how to do this? Valerie is our Nature Journal Club mentor, and she helps kind of take people and shows them ropes, like, oh, you might consider doing it this way, or try this or this or this or this or this. And then from all that collective learned experience, you'll have even more fun, and it'll be a great experience. So you want to start a club near you? Talk to Valerie, right? um, So, Valerie, first of all, thank you so much for doing that in our community. You also have a really active nature journal club in the in Montana, and we're going to be talking about some incredible opportunities that you have created for people. We'll put let's maybe Valerie, you can put your contact information into the chat. What I want to do, perhaps to introduce Valerie also, is I want to share some journal entries that I made with Valerie. So last year, Valerie set up this opportunity for nature journalers across the country, across the world, to come to Montana and spend some kind of some close time together, sort of developing skills as nature journalers. You had all of these workshops, presenters lined up. It was a nature journaling conference in the mountains, people bringing in, raptors and all these things for us to sketch. And we also had opportunities to go out into the wilds of Montana And I want to show you what Valerie had for us last year. And this year is going to, this is exciting. This year is even more exciting. And so I'm going to just, let's go over here. And whoop, wait, document camera is not responding. Hold on. There we, that's, that's the way we do it. So here we have, hold on, I'll turn this down. Like, so this is, I mean, look at like where could we possibly be? There's a pronghorn out there, meadowlarks, but wait, there's more because around the next corner, Tatanka, we've got these bison napping over here, eastern phoebes, and bitterroot flowers. So that's a crazy Montana thing. But look at all these bison just kind of napping around there. Oh, oh, all right. So it was a spectacular time with lots of bison, all sorts of flowers and plants to investigate. Wait, I've frozen again. Ah, oh my goodness. So I don't know how long I was on those other pages, but there's all sorts of amazing stuff going on in this spectacular landscape. We just had a ton of fun at the National Bison Range in Montana. So this was this there's yeah, the eastern kingbird, such a cool, weird bird. So this is where we were last year, and you're thinking like, how can it get more exciting than that? Well, what we're going to be doing this year, let's bring Valerie back on and tell us about the upcoming opportunity.
Well, Northern Rockies Nature Journaling is really excited about what we're doing this year. We're going to be, in a nutshell, we're going into Yellowstone National Park with our journals. They are, it's wow. I mean, Yellowstone National Park is such a pristine area with such a huge variety of habitat and landscapes and wildlife and flowers and everything. So what we'll be doing is this is just working out so well. And let me also say, I've got a great team of people helping to put this together, and they certainly need, you know, their attaboys as well. But at any rate, our base camp will be at the Yellowstone Forever Overlook campus, which is just outside of Gardner, Montana, and that's at the north entrance of the park. The Yellowstone Forever Overlook campus by itself is a phenomenal place. And then we'll be journeying into the park in small groups, in little buses, Yellowstone Forever buses, going different directions in the park. So here's what's really going to be kind of fun. People who participate get to kind of customize their experience by choosing their own field trips. And so you want to do botany and birds, you go this direction. If you want to do geology and thermals, well, you go to get on that bus, and so on and so forth. And then it's so, we're doing as much as we can in the park. Sadly, we could easily spend 2 weeks there, yeah, or a month. But this is an opportunity that we're really very excited about. And when we go on our field trips, we will be led by highly trained naturalists and guides who will be giving us information about whatever it is we're going to be studying. We'll be getting information from those folks that's not generally available to the general public. So we'll kind of be getting an inside view of what we're studying, then time in the field to nature journal it. So that's the overall plan. I'm sorry?
And as far as wildlife goes, we're talking pronghorn elk, deer, bison. So quite a smorgasbord, a bighorn, and then you kind of go over to the carnivore side. There's black bears, grizzly bears, wolves, all this amazing stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It is Yellowstone is really an amazing place. And to get to go there with a group of curious naturalists who are going at a nature journaler's sketching pace. That's a great opportunity. Thank you so much for making this opportunity available to the community.
Thank you. Thank you for the inspiration. You suggested it a long time ago, and we're finally able to make it happen.
Oh, that's going to be fun. Right.
I think
so. In preparation for that, I want to take a look at the bears. Right? We're going to start with black bear because that's something that we can see black bear across the country. They've got a wider distribution. So there may be a black bear near you. But we're also going to take a look at the grizzly bears because sometimes we do a comparison of these two. The features of one help you notice sort of how to draw the other. So let's take a look at how to draw bears. And at the end of this, we're going to be returning for any kind of question and answer. Folks who have questions for Valerie or about bears and sketching you some bears. Let's see, I've got a little sketchbook here. I found like where I am in California. We hunted the California grizzly bear to extinction, I'm afraid. There's not, the grizzly bears are not happening in California, just on our flag. But we've got black bears. So I was in Yosemite. Yosemite and Yellowstone have this fight about who is officially the first park. But was out there, and one morning, where's that? Where's that? Not grizzly bear. Where was that? Was it? Oh, there we go. There's some bears. Wait a minute. I've frozen again.
No worries. It happens.
Well, but it's hoping this is not a new thing for the camera. I brought my little camera down to San Luis Obispo to teach at a birding festival, and it may have gotten damaged in the trip. It seems to want to kind of every once in a while kind of freeze on us. But so here are some kind of quick field sketches of some black bears, and we're going to take a look at kind of how in a sketch to kind of get the feeling of bareness. To how can you kind of get the bare necessities to make it sort of feel bare. We're going to take a look underneath the skin here a little bit, sort of to make our bear bare, so we understand how their legs work. I've frozen again. Okay, now no more freezing. No more freezing. But let's take a look at how we make our bears. So I've got a little notebook here, and I am going to share. All right. So while we're having technical difficulties, oh, this is not at the Oakland Zoo. Just ignore that. I scavenged part of an old thing, but then put all of these black bears into it. But wanted to start with, not you, wanted to start with just taking a look at the skeleton of the black bear. And so if we look at the skeleton of a black bear, there are it looks very similar to a human being. As a matter of fact, as a matter of fact, according to people who are bear hunters, it's a rather unnerving thing to skin a bear because the bear, once bear, looks very, very similar to a human being. There's the way that the arms articulate, the way that the legs articulate, looks just like a little person. And if you look at the skeleton there, you can see where its shoulder attaches to a shoulder blade, just like ours. There's a forearm, there's an upper arm, there's a forearm, there's a little hand, and it's walking flat on the ground. We also have, we're seeing the back leg going from a hip to a knee to a heel, and it's walking flat foot on the ground. So you might be, if I turn myself into a bear, I'm going to try to turn this camera down a little bit so that you see the floor. And if I am trying to pretend I'm a bear, then my foot is flat on the ground, and these hands are flat on the ground. Sometimes this hand can kind of come up a little bit like this, but the bear is kind of walking around sort of flat-footed. And if it stands up, yeah, there's a headless Jack. So if this bear decides it's going to stand, then it's sort of got, this is your bear pose, and what you're seeing is it'll have an upper arm, it'll have a forearm, and the whole big flop hand hangs down like this. So you can think of your human body as a very good a very good way to kind of understand how this bear is put together. So let's take a look then at putting some fur on top of that, putting some fur. Ah, there's some fur. And notice where the fur goes on this. What you're really seeing then is from the elbow down and from close to where the knee is down on the bear. So you're not seeing that upper arm really extended. You're not seeing this part of the leg, the thigh. You're seeing from the knee down sticking out underneath the bear. And so I'll show you a few lines to kind of quickly capture these proportions. If I'm looking at a bear, my first line is just the line, the angle of the back of the bear. And so I'll light with a light pencil, kind of go back and like, here's the back of the bear. And so look at the negative shape. What is the shape of the air behind the bear? And then think of a bear box. If you're going to put a bear in a box, I don't know why you'd want to put in a bear in a box, but were you to put a bear in a box, how from the back of the bear to the feet of the bear, how far down is that? From the front of the bear to the back, the tail, how much is it from that sort of shoulder to tail? You're going to kind of just lightly frame that in. What you're trying to do here is not make your bear into a wiener dog, and you're also not going to make your bear too deep, right? Or too long. We don't want really long legs on our bear. And so this box just sort of helps you kind of look at proportions. What are the proportions of the bear here? So another really useful line is to think of, if this is my sort of, here's my bear box, how far down is the bear's belly going to be? And what you're going to find is that unlike if you're used to drawing long leg things, horses, deer, and these sorts of things, then the bear proportions are going to be confusing, especially if the bear is got a lot of fur on it. So if it's a really shaggy bear, then you're really not going to see leg structure. You're going to have this little sort of bear, this is sort of a bigger bear body, and then little legs sticking down. We'll see in a moment that sometimes on a bear with really short fur, you can get, you can see a little bit more of the leg structure. We're not going to make the head too big. People tend to make heads really big because heads are really cool. So I just initially just put in a little ball as to hold the head position and stick a little box onto the front of that. So those are some kind of useful lines to kind of block in the body. Note where the legs are coming out, and think of the front foot as either being flat on the ground or if it's rolling forward, just like you would with your foot, you are going to be kind of rolling across those toes. So the question is, brown bear, black bear proportions, are these similar? They are very similar, but there are some kind of critical parts that you're going to pay attention to kind of get the shape of the black bear versus the Griz to be different. Generally speaking, the big thing is going to be that you're going to have a little bit more of a bulky head, not a longer neck, but a bulkier head on the grizzly bear. And another thing that is very useful in once you kind of got some of you're starting to get your bear framed out, is to look for negative shapes. So these are, what are the angles, say, under the front and the front of the throat and the front leg of the bear? What is the shape of the air between the front leg and the back leg? What are the angles along the bear butt? And so these are what we call negative shapes. And so what you're doing here very often is not focusing on the bear, you're focusing on the shape of the air next to the bear. And these negative shapes kind of then help you kind of carve that in. So what you get then is some basic bear sketch lines. We'll look at how then to put fur on top of that. And actually, this might be just sort of a kind of a great place just to sort of think a little bit about fur rendering techniques. I have a, let's see, we're going to go to the document camera and see if it's, oh, it's frozen. No, you're killing me. Oh, right. So here's a couple of thoughts about I'm going to be looking down. So if I freeze and it sounds like I think I'm saying something or drawing something, and you realize that I've frozen, please just let me know. But I won't be looking at the screen, so I won't know when I'm going to freeze. Let's say I'm just going to draw a little squiggle here. Here, you can make your squiggle kind of any shape you want. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this squiggle.
I think you froze. I'm sorry.
Already. So here's what I don't suggest you do. I don't suggest you draw hair like this all over the back of the bear. What you want to do is to suggest the pelt. In some places, the hair is longer and it hangs down. Some places the hair it's in piles over the bear. So some places you're going to just sort of, you're going to be sort of drawing a line along the back of the bear. In other place, and if you want to make that line look a little bit furrier, a few little kind of just a few little tick marks. Oh, let's zoom down on it. Oop. to see those little kind of tick marks? Those suggest kind of little cracks in the fur where the fur has a little break in them.
Jack,
At a dis
sorry, Jack, you might have to lower it a little. There we
uh,
go.
at a distance, you're not seeing individual hairs stick up, but we've frozen again. So some places where it's like on the back, you might sort of have more of a solid line. As you come around a corner, very often you see that kind of going over a bump on the surface makes hair kind of get a little bit more kind of uh, frizzy, right? So you can kind of get a sense that there's some kind of hair shag going over there. Then here, what's happening here? Well, maybe so just a few little kind of tick marks like that suggests that you're drawing something that is shaggy. So some places it's a line, some places not. As I kind of come around a big corner here, I'm going to suggest, yeah. So the idea with these little marks is if if I'm doing this with a pencil, right, then what I will often do is I'll press harder with the pencil and then flick that to the inside so that it makes kind of a triangle mark. If I've got a pen like this, I'm pressing harder and flicking up. We call these bilberry marks, where you're kind of just putting in a few of these little cracks in the fur. So I used to see that a lot in the sketches of
Jack, I think we froze again. I'm really sorry.
But I'm going to try to climb underneath the table here for a moment and um, see if maybe this has something to do with a connection down here.
While Jack is doing that, we might suggest folks to practice just on the side of your page, drawing a little bit of not full solid lines, but sort of lost and found edges where you have a bit of a line, and then you might stop to do a little bit of those shag marks. Just because it's one of those things that will help you as you draw. Just train your hand to do it, even if you're not trying to do it on a finished piece.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So in places in here, to make this sort of this blob look fuzzier, what I want to do is I'm going to be not drawing the hairs, but in here I often look for kind of cracks in the fur on the very often cracks in the fur will kind of come in in groups, right? So you'll have where, oh, we're frozen again.
But but no matter what, we can keep our hands moving and keep practicing as
Mm-hmm.
we keep
Yeah.
practicing.
So and then a few places I might draw in just kind of a few little kind of marks to say, like, look, this is
Sorry.
So what I'm doing is, if you look at this bear, there's some places where the outside edge is a line. Other places you see little tick marks across it. And then I'm drawing in these cracks in the fur. So the cracks in the fur are the major features you're going to be seeing from a distance. So if I am doing this with watercolor, then what I will sometimes do is in sort of deep shadow areas, like where the cracks are, I will first paint those in really, really dark. And then I can paint over that and you still see those cracks through it. If you whoops, no, not you. Hold on a second. Don't push that button to self. So if I let this layer dry, then I can paint over that. And those lines show through, those little cracks. If I want it to be even darker, I can paint over that. But what I'm trying to do is suggest sort of the mass of shadows on the object and also those cracks in the fur. Sometimes there's a little bit of a bluish sheen to black bears. So what I did here is I just added a little blue wash in on top of that. And the final little detail here, I have a white pencil, and I lightly am just suggesting a little bit of hair-like marks on it. That just makes it look a little bit fuzzier and furrier. So that can do a lot to suggest deep fur. But I don't want to put little hair marks over the entire thing because you really are not seeing hair over the surface of the bear. So here is kind of a quick comparison between black and Griz. Really look at the heads on these and the sizes of those ears. So the black bear is a little bit of a bunny rabbit, and the Griz has proportionally small little rounded ears. Another thing to notice here is in the middle of the face, you've got that snout coming down and little eyes right on either side of the nose. We're going to tend to want to make those eyes further out because we're thinking about the proportions on a human face, but that's not going to work well for us. Note also just how big and round that face of the Griz is, and it's more of a tapered arrangement over there with the black bear. So here's a little black bear. And what I am going to so let's see, are we? Yeah. So if I'm going to be drawing this, there we are. All right. What I'm thinking of here is just initially a little circle with a center line on it. My eyes are coming about halfway through this. And my snout is then going to be hanging down here in the middle of this. Think of the snout as a box. You're looking down on the edges of the box, and you also have the front of the box here. That's where the little nose is going to be attached. So I'm going to give myself a little bit of a surface here for where my nose is going to be. The eyes are going to be up on this line, and they're going to be closer together than you think they should be. So kind of coming off of the nose here, my eyes are going to be right in there, and the eyes are small. For the ears, don't draw this ear and then draw this ear. They'll end up too far apart. What you want to do is to draw the shape between those ears. And then I'm going to, because it's a black bear, I'm going to give it a big ear here, big bunny ears on the black bear. And now I've got enough information down that I can add in some detail. So I'm just going to start with some eyes here. I'm going to make these eyes smaller than my brain is going to want to make them. We really want to make big eyes on things. I think I made these eyes too big. even on this, right? Now, let's put a little bit of tissue around these eyes. We don't just want circles floating in the middle of the void. There's a little bit of the fur kind of sticks out around these eyes. And if on your mammal drawings, if you add some of that kind of tissue around the eyes, then the eyes will they'll kind of fit into the head a little bit better. In a front view, this top edge of the eyes, I don't want to draw straight lines down, bold lines down on either side. But I want to suggest that there's a little bit of an inflection point in here. So some dashed lines or a really kind of light drawn line in there can be very helpful. On my nose, I am going to think of number sixes laying on their side. Let's kind of go to this view here. Kind of number six laying on its side. So like this. It's a little bit of a center line. And then you will often have, you're seeing just a little kind of hint of some lip there. You see what I did on that lower lip? I had some line and then I kind of broke it out to be just a little bit furry so that it doesn't look as sort of locked in. I'm going to sort of put some lines coming out at angles here to sort of smooth that into the face. And there's my little snout. This snout is looking a little bit broad, which is making this look a little bit more grizzly bear. Grizzly bears have a broader nose. And I think I've made mine a little bit too broad. I'll be able to help that with that a little bit by having big ears here. Kind of turn it back into a black bear. We can't really see into the ears on this guy, but there's often a little bit sort of a thicker zone in the top here. And then that means you're dark down in there. There. Having a narrower head like that kind of keeps this as more of a black bear. But watch this in just a moment. I will make this, if I actually have my lines out like this, you see now it starts to look more like a grizzly bear. So I won't do that, especially not in pen. Let's take another look at that nose and the eye. And just as a little study on the side, draw yourself a little bear nose or draw yourself an eye. Whatever you think is sort of the most kind of confusing for you. I'm going to do another nose. So there's a center line. Here's my top surface of the nose. Whoa, that's an earthquake, right? I have my little 6 coming in from the side, 6 coming in from the side. in order to make this nose look, to sort of show that angle in the nose, where I want it to people to sort of feel that there's an upper surface here, and then somewhere in here it turns down. I'm going to do that with just tone. Here's the bottom part of the nose. And here's this upper part of the nose. And I'm going to leave a few little kind of just white spots on there to be some light reflecting. Let's zoom in on that to show you that little nose again. If I leave some white parts up there, then that feels like a little bit more of a wet nose. Bear nose. Now, everybody on your own, it's basically the same look, it's the same thing. On this one, though, be sure to note that we're looking at one ear from the side and one ear from the front. Let's just have everybody make kind of a quick sketch of that bear face. I'm going to make my nose narrower. Make my eyes smaller. With that little bit of tissue around the eyes. A little bit of a chin under there. Interesting. This one has sort of a brown stripe down the middle of its nose. So now let's just sort of take a look at kind of drawing the bear. Now this is, remember I said there are some, if they have short fur, we actually get to see the elbow and the knee, and that's the case in this little cub. So I'm going to try to just sort of make a quick little sketch to help me block in this bear. And how might that look? I'm going to first get the line along the back of the bear. And there's a little bear butt down there. Its ground is down here. And its belly is somewhere in here. I've got a head. Now, I'm going to try to put the head not too far out because I don't want to give this a long neck. Put a box on that ball. And there's one foot that's sticking out like this. Another foot that's sticking back here. There's another foot hanging out here. And there's another foot that's coming down here. I'm just putting in a few little placeholders. Remember when I said I really like negative shapes to help me kind of block in these legs? Look at what I'm going to do now. Under the head, a little bit of throat. It's going to come down and then out. I'm going to go back to this view here, get rid of the, whoops, not you, the keynote. There we go. So that way I can see what that front foot is doing. So I just put in the negative shape on that front foot. What about the negative shape under the legs? We're coming down. We're coming over. So that my bear, notice it's sort of feeling very angular. I can round it out later. And then what's this back leg doing? It's over and then comes down. What about the negative shape between these legs? That little negative shape there. And then I've got another negative shape here. Huge ears. Little suggestion that it's furry. Really kind of get that elbow look on this long-legged, more short-furred bear. This is a Tombow brush pen. Something that's neat about tombos is that if you go over existing lines, you can make things darker. So I'm just looking at where is it lighter, where is it darker. These legs that are underneath, darker. Underneath the head here, darker. In the ear, darker. And then here's the other end of the spectrum. This bear is super shaggy. And notice that we're not seeing as much articulation especially in that front leg. Also notice the cracks in the fur along the belly of this bear. That's going to be really helpful for suggesting this shape. So I am going to get the back of my bear. It's higher in the back, lower in the front. Nice negative shape underneath this bear. I think it's really easy to overdo necks on things like this. So just be wary of that. So I have a big ear, a big ear. On my line that comes around the edge, some places it's smooth, some places, especially when you kind of come to a corner, I'm going to suggest that there's some kind of fuzz in there. The backs of legs often are also much more shaggy than the fronts. My belly here. And I've got big cracks in that fur. This time I'm going to put in the shadows first. This leg back here, I want really dark. I want it dark in the ears and under and around this head to make that head pop out. A little bit on the bottom here, nice dark cracks. This one, interesting, up here on the flank. A little bit of darkness in there. Like if I were making this up my brain would want to put a highlight in there. But when in doubt, believe the bear. And then I'm just going to take this Tombow pen and go over the whole thing. Those little dark parts show through. Try another one. Now here, you cannot see the articulation of those front legs, right? So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be making a bear blob. And here we're going to really work on believing the contours of those shadows to make a convincing bear blob. So if I want to make a convincing bear blob, I'm going to draw this one smaller. Let's see if I can get this camera down lower so it makes this a little bit bigger. Yeah. So for this bear blob, what I'm going to do is essentially I've got a big ball of a bear, and that bear has a head, it has a shoulder, it has a belly, and a hip. A little kind of shorthand that I often like to think of for drawing an animal that is foreshortened towards me is thinking of it having a head, thinking of it having shoulders behind that, thinking of it having a belly beyond that, and then hips beyond that. So a series of overlapping balls. And you'll see how this little kind of mental model of the hairball, the shoulder ball, the belly ball, and the hip ball, all kind of overlapping. When I kind of get to carving this bird, those are going to be useful. This bear is checking me out. Little narrow nose. And I'm going to have an ear sticking up. I'm going to have an ear sticking up. This one is trying to look all grizzly bear with its head, really round face. And then I'm going to think I have this shoulder.
Would you switch your page?
Sorry about that. Shoulders coming in here. I have belly coming in here. And I have hips kind of coming in lower than that and coming down there. Now, as I start to draw, sort of to ink in this little bear, I can't see what's going on a bunch of those front legs. So I'm not going to draw that.
Oh, Jack, if possible, could you raise, there we go. Thank you.
Thank you. I have shoulders that are coming in somewhere in here. I have a leg that is coming down here. I have a belly that is coming in here. And then I have hips. That are coming down there. So what is going to be really useful for this is to put in the shadow to carve this form. And so I'm going to erase some of these lines just to make a little bit more clear about what I'm doing with this shadow. You probably wouldn't have to erase these on your sketch if you're going to be covering it up with something like this Tombow. But look at this. What do I see? I see there's a little bit of light on the edge of its shoulder. Then there is some darkness in its belly. There is shadow coming down on the leg. And then on its face, there is a little platform of light on the top of its head. So what I'm seeing then is this area in here is really dark. This area in here is dark. This area here, I see some sort of cracks in the fur coming down and coming into dark. Side of its face is dark. This whole business in here is dark. And a little bit of darkness on the back of the head here. And I'm going to put in a few little curving fur cracks. And I'm taking a lighter Tombow here. And there it is. There's a little bear. So I can't really see what's going on with those front legs. And so I'm just not worrying about it. I'm just putting those in as a big block. Shadows like that do a really great job of kind of carving the form of this thing. Bears are cute. I'm gonna just go for, let's go for this last bear here. All right. And what I'm going to do is wanting to focus on my hand. Start just with a little gesture sketch. We've got a bear tummy here. But first, the anatomy of something doesn't really make sense to you. It does help to sort of take a little bit of time just to look at it again, see if you can figure out what parts you're looking at. Like, oh, I've got a whole arm that's coming in here. So if you kind of get your bearings.
For me, I like to think of the hand as a little separate shape. This little brown muzzle is an interesting shape, isn't it? Think of that as wider on the sides, down where the corners of the mouth are. And the nose fits into the bottom edge of that. A very broad, bulky nose. Little eyes. I'm going to put in my dark shadows on my bear here. So it's going to be dark inside the ears. It is going to be dark along the sides of the face and under the throat. I'm going to leave a little bit of light along the edge of the bear. On the arm, looks like there's some dark on the bottom. Here. And then light on the top there. So dark in the ears. Dark on the throat, leaving a little bit of a white edge on the left side. Dark belly. Want that little paw to show up. And the final thing that I want to do here, so what I did is, again, I'm just using the Tombow brush pen. I've got two brush pens here. One is a little bit darker than the other. And one is just gives you a kind of a gray tone. The other allows you then to put in shadows. Those dark areas, you can see they really just kind of define the form of this. Like, look at how the forehead of this pops out when those other things become dark around it. If I have 50 different pens, it's easy for me to get overwhelmed with what am I doing? But if I have a small selection of things, and things are either dark or they're light or they're white, right? Then my value range choices just got a lot easier. And I just put in those shapes and it kind of carves the bear.
Oh, we've got a question, Jack, about
Yeah.
what are the numbers on those Tombow pens that you just showed us?
This one here is the N95. It's my lightest one. I love the N95. And this one, let's see here, is it's worn out, so it's not showing very well, but I'm going to find out that answer for you, because I sell that pen in my store. So I'm going to go over there, sell 3 brush pens. There they are. It's the I got the N95 and the N75. These two here. And sometimes I use, like, so those are my 2 go-to pens. And if I want something that's even darker, this is the N65. Oh, sorry, the N45. And that's even darker. But those pens do a great job. I think probably the 2 critical ones are your N95 and N75. So if you get those, then, and also, should there be another pandemic, this pen here, the N95, is very useful for helping you breathe. Before we just sort of leave the world of bears, we're not going to be really drawing a lot of grizzlies right now. But I just want to note how rounder the face of the grizzly bear is. Now we've been looking at some black bears. We can see that this has a really big dish face and smaller, proportionally smaller ears. Right? Another thing to note is that that hump on the back of the grizzly bear is bigger than you get in the black bear. So as you're drawing that first line, you'll note that big hump. You get big humps on the backs of animals that have really big blocky heads. So a moose has a heavy head, a bison has a heavy head, a grizzly bear has a heavy head, giraffe and elephant have heavy heads. And all those animals have big humps over their shoulder. What that actually is projections of the spine that stick up that hold that head up. And so the bigger your head, the bigger your shoulder hump is going to be. And you can see that on a bunch of bears. So a great exercise to do is to go online and get yourself some pictures of bears. And hold on, I'm going to try to move this around.
I'm going to end my spotlight. Nope, I don't want to remove the spotlight. I want to go to this. Okay, there. So to help us with bears, getting some photographs of bears, drawing some bears. What I want to encourage you to do is usually when you're seeing bears, you're seeing them from a distance. So this idea of sort of simplifying the light and dark areas into simpler shapes, so into just a few values, is going to be useful because you're not going to be kind of like, I don't want to kind of get into like fussy hair detail. I want to kind of get the oomph of these big parts of my bear. So that's usually what I'm seeing from all the way over here. Because if I get too close there, then the bear is not going to like it. And you want a happy bear. That's going to help you kind of keep sketching for a longer period of time. If the first few sketches don't work out, make another one. Fill a page or two with sketches of bears, and don't don't judge yourself. Don't have that part of you that, if we don't want to feel embarrassed by our shaggy friend. Remember that humans like structure underneath it. Fill a page or two with your bear sketches, and you're going to find that you're going to towards the end of it, you're going to get some sketches that will pop out that really feel a lot more like the bear. And that's just because your brain is then, you're absorbing this bear feeling. You're absorbing this understanding of bareness. And but it usually takes several sketches for these to start to feel more bearish. That you're going to find this with all sorts of different things. If I'm doing a project, like I need to draw a marmot, I'll fill up a few pages with sketches of marmots. And here's a different one, here's a different one, different one. The final marmot that I sit down to sketch, because I've been just looking at marmotness more, is going to be much, much better because I've given myself time to play with that. So I hope that we've had some useful strategies here to help you with drawing black bears. This is one of the many species that Valerie is going to be encountering with her crew out there when they are bopping around in Yellowstone Park. So consider joining them out there. It should be a lot of fun. Let's bring Valerie back on and see if there's any questions that people have about this expedition or bears or how to draw these little beasties. I gotta read a question that just popped up in the chat from Susan Beckhart. It says, "Don't draw the marmot, be the marmot." That's good. And what that reminds me, Hannah Henchman has this wonderful book, A Trail Through Leaves, and in that she's got at one point some of these sketches of marmots, and she's I think she's sort of thinking about how some people will compare themselves, like I'm a lion, I'm a leopard. And at one point, and if you're just sort of reading through the sketches that she has, and she's sort of doing some self-reflection, she says, like, what am I? A marmot. So she's embraced her inner marmot, and I respect that. So if you've got a question for us, please put it in the chat.
And you can also raise your hand here. Or if anybody wants to share some bear sketches, then, oh, Susan says getting whistled at by a marmot is a delightful experience. Yes, but let's not generalize that to that cross species whistling is appreciated. But within your species, whistling is not always an appreciated gesture. Does anybody have any bear sketches that they wanted to share with us? Let's join Chloe and Ray Bantar. Ray Bantar? How did I say that? Ray Banto. Oh, I know. I know where Bantar came from. I have a friend at the California Academy of Sciences named Ray Bantar, and for some reason I was talking about him the other day, and so that's I think why that popped into my head. But Ray Banto will be with you in just a moment. So let's check in with Chloe and see what you've got. Then Ray Banto, and then Kate. Chloe, how are you doing?
Good.
Did you do some bear sketching?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, cool. What I'm going to do is your background is blurred. And if we are able to turn that function off, we'll see your page much better. Ooh, it's turning it all around. I'm going to remove our spotlights so that, or maybe try holding it up in front of you. And no, it's wanting to blur it. Ah. But I am seeing really solid bear shapes there, and you're really some neat stuff going on with your shadows. Oh, there we go. We can see. Oh, there. We see it. We see it. Yes. So nice legs on your bears, and that one where it's kind of pointing towards you a little bit and kind of hunched over that's a great bear shape there. I like also how you left part of the muzzle lighter, where you kind of get those little arcs of light fur, that brown fur up on either side of that.
Mm-hmm.
That's really cool.
Yeah, and then I also had a couple questions.
Yes.
So I was wondering, do grizzly bears and black bears hibernate? Like, do grizzly bears hibernate longer or shorter from black bears?
That's an interesting question. I don't know the answer to that one. I also wonder about, say, hibernation time as within a single species. What is that like as you get further north or south, as if you're in a warmer place? Like, if anybody knows about the hibernation times of grizzly bears and black bears, another thing that's interesting about that, Chloe, is that the black bear has a smaller body. I wonder if it then cannot handle conditions that are as cold, making it hibernate longer. But then I'm thinking it's not going to be able to store as much food in its body as a grizzly bear. So this is a really interesting question. I could come up with I kind of talk myself into like this one will probably be this way, but then I kind of can talk myself into exactly the opposite thing. I have no idea. Do you know about anything about that, Valerie?
Oh boy, I don't have any information on, time frames. Around here it's the bears are asleep or the bears are awake, and it's a general statement across black and grizzlies. I don't have anything specific other than that.
And Chadwick is pointing out that some places down here in Southern California, black bears around there, they just decide not to hibernate because it doesn't really get cold, and then they can surf longer. Um, but that's cool. Oh, a, another thing that's kind of cool about the grizzly bears up where Valerie is when they come out of hibernation, they want to get a really good meal. And so they head up into the rocks, um, uh, and they start turning over boulders with their claws. And so and they lick moths off the undersides of the rocks. And and because as they're kind of going into summer, a huge part of their grizzly bear diet is eating geometrid moths. And that's really weird. Like you'd think like, I am grizzly bear. Ah, right? And I'm eating moths. But and you can find grizzly bear scat. It's just like have you ever found a moth-filled grizzly bear scat, Valerie?
Not with moths in it. No, usually I find them with berries and fruits and things like that, but I haven't found them with moths. And the other interesting thing, if I can build on that for just a minute, Jack, the grizzly bears, at least in Montana, they originally lived in on our plains in central Montana and eastern Montana. And then because of settlements and things like that, they moved into the mountains to live because they're pretty safe there. And but what's really pretty exciting is that now the grizzly bears are starting to repopulate the plains again. They're moving that direction. They're moving back to their homeland, all on their own. They're not. They're doing this, and I'm thrilled to pieces to see that happen. But yeah, they love those moths in the spring, and they're big ones too. But see, that's why, and that's why grizzly bears, at least here in Montana. Now Alaska's a different story, but like because they live on the plains, they eat a lot of very large grubs and insects and things like that. And so they just adapted that behavior in the mountains to eating the moths.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, that's really cool. Your question is so interesting about how sort of the timing of that. Wouldn't it be interesting to compare across species and also across latitudes or temperature regimes? Are ones that are further north hibernating longer? Does being bigger allow you to hibernate longer because you can store more fat? Or does being bigger mean that you have sort of more inertial kind of, it's hard to cool me off because I'm just a big wad of bareness. And how does that also then compare with polar bears when we get even further? Great question. And I'm afraid we don't know the answer, but I'm happy that both of us not knowing the answer said we don't know. So that's something we practice with our scientific mindset. When we have no idea, we're like, very cool question. Thanks, Chloe, and thank you for sharing those bear drawings.
No problem. Thank you.
Excellent. Let's join Ray Bonto, heading over to the UK here. Kaboom. Hello there, and you can. There we are. How have you been?
Hi, Jack. How are you?
We're doing well. I don't know what's going on with my cameras, but other than that, I'm doing well.
You have to bear it.
Oh dear. That's embarrassing.
It's
Oh,
get to the first one.
yep. Let's I'm gonna remove our spotlight so we can make your bear full-size bear here. Oh, yep. Nice kind of hitting those negative shapes. Good proportions.
Thanks. Then
Oh. The way you are kind of handling those angles on the nose, I really like that. And also I get a sense of the glossiness of the fur. So folks, note how Ray Bonto is letting some of the light part of the paper show through. There's a series of washes. Did you start lighter and go darker?
yes.
Nice. Nice approach there. Yeah.
And
And the proportions on like the size of the head, the locations of these features. And hey, everybody also notice the impact of having some of those sort of the area around the eyes being lighter like that. Kind of feels like they're sticking out a little bit, right? You've got tissue around the eyes. That's really effective. Great.
um,
Oh, yeah. That muzzle really pops out on the standing one. And I like the contours, how those shadows, how the cracks in the fur on the 3/4 bear are kind of wrapping around the contour of the barrel of that body.
yeah. Thank you.
Oh, well, thank you. That's really good. Yeah. And let's see. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing those pictures. We're going to back in the United States here. Join Kate. Hello there.
Hello, it's been a while.
It's great to see you again.
Yeah, good to see you guys too. Thanks for putting on an awesome class today. I tried to do quite a bit of sketch noting, and a lot of times I struggle to keep up with the pace of the classes. So I did a lot of, taking notes on what you were doing just so I could come back through and have those for later. Because as you said, usually it takes going through many, many times with just sketching to get the feel of something. And I feel like that's not always the most productive thing you be doing during these classes when you're getting a lot of good information verbally about what's going on. So I'll kind of watch what you're doing and just try and jot down notes kind of haphazardly and then kind of work on stuff. And usually things don't look quite like how I want them to during the class. I'm mostly focused on what you're doing. And then when you've seen my previous practice stuff where, I'll learn something in a class and just go back and do pages and pages of pencil miles.
Yeah.
So.
And tell people a little bit about your sort of pencil mile approach, because that's a really good strategy. Can you show us sort of like where you got some kind of critter in your head and then did like just a whole bunch of rinse and repeat with a whole bunch of different views of?
Yeah, actually. So this month, actually, I've been really, currently unemployed. So I figured what I do is I just create syllabuses for myself of your classes and some other online contents and focus those around various things I want to get better at. And big one's been botany. So what I did was I did the first week where I worked on textures and shadows, and then perspective just to give myself better tools. And as we get further into the notebook, give me one moment.
Are you still working on
doing,
Oh, hey, yep.
Just incorporating different skills, and then, you practice those in various ways, and then you build on that with more online classes and sketch pages like this, where you just take those skills and really play with them and practice with them so that, you can build on that. And having a notebook like this where you can just kind of keep working through stuff is really great. It's not all the plants and stuff, but here's a good one where, you get a critter and you just keep focusing and getting a bunch of different pictures and running through those gestures.
This is a great example of that. and you'll notice that some of these are worked out to different degrees.
Yeah, definitely.
Doing a bunch of these that's so powerful. That is so powerful.
Yeah, I find that really helpful too, because that repetition and then going back and be able to just like with the plants and stuff, I've just been trying to work both on, the contrast and everything like that, and being able to really exercise new skills about how to place things and all that. So the more you can do with just playing with those skills and then building on them, like I've really been working on putting together sequences of classes that will build on things I've been working on so I can do a better job with that stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been really fun, and I
Is
feel
that
like the more you can
Carolina
do. What'd you say?
Was that the Carolina parakeet there?
Oh, you have a good eye to see the other extinct bird that went by.
No, I didn't. Let's see.
Here, I'll go back.
Oh, yes, yes. Well, I'm still, yeah, probably our Lord God bird um, is goes. The ivory-billed woodpecker is such I mean, it just must have been a monster bird.
Oh, I know. I mean, we have pileated woodpeckers that live right above my house, and every time I see those, they're still striking enough. And you can imagine, I mean, not quite doubling the size, at least going up by about a third.
Yeah, boy, that would have been amazing, amazing to see. I remember a few years ago where there was all that excitement that they might have been rediscovered.
That would
Um,
be pretty.
but I I tend to kind of agree with David Sibley's analysis that you're probably looking at um, just people getting very excited about a pileated woodpecker. Not that there's
Yeah,
anything
well,
wrong with being a pileated woodpecker.
exactly. I'm gonna make some ivory-billed woodpecker bumper stickers that say "I want to believe."
Yes.
But yeah, well, I mean, it would be really cool. But I mean, if you think about like we thought the California sea otters were extinct, and then we found some little pocket somewhere, and now they're all over Monterey after a couple decades. So you never know. I mean, if there was a couple breeding pairs somewhere.
Yep. Yep. And the same thing happened with our California tule elk. We had thought we'd
Oh,
hunted
that's right.
it to extinction, but somebody had some of these elk down in a marsh in the southern Central Valley, and they all the rest of them they'd been wiped out by market hunting to feed the hunger of the gold rush. Oh, what
Right.
great studies!
Yeah, and then I think some of the really pencil miley type stuff, just doing a bunch of stuff like this to really get comfortable with those skills.
Do you have Jack in the Pulpit growing in your area?
No, I've been listening to a lot of Carl Hyacins. You've been noticing there's a lot of tropical creatures in here. It's snowy outside right now,
Uh,
so it's kind of escapism via iNaturalist and Carl Hyacin audiobooks.
oh, that's fun.
Yeah, it's been very fun. I've been doing that, get some California poppies in, had some insects. But yeah, I mean, every time you do something, the more you put in the practice miles,
Yep.
I feel like that really, if you practice and then find that next step where you can improve something and seek out those lessons, that combination of really drilling in those skills and uh, doing that is so beneficial to like moving forward to the next kind of step.
Yeah, and just putting in sort of letting your brain wrap around something. Like I noticed that, and you also, part of what you're doing is sometimes you're practicing just ovals.
Mm-hmm. Well,
Um,
part of it's just building, the muscle memory, and because one of the problems I know I have is I get really tight and I push really hard, and I really need to work on having those loose lines and things like that, so it's more natural shapes.
right. All right. Well, thank you so much for sharing those with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Um, does Anybody else have any bear questions that we will not know the answer to? Bring them. Or would you like to share any other pages from your journal? We would love to see what's been happening in your notebook. Oh, Ann Chadwick from Point Blue Conservation Science. Let's add you into the spotlight here. Good to see you.
Good to see you. What a fun class. And thank you, Valerie, for what you're doing. I love that you're mentoring people on setting up their clubs. That's so great. And I'm trying to come up with a pun, but I haven't done it yet. So anyway, having fun with drawing bears today. And I love the bear in the box and getting under the hood, close-ups, and
Notes. Oh, that's really fun.
playing with the Tombow pens. That's
Pushing the values on on that one bear there really pops it out.
But did everybody get the little guy? I mean, did you notice? He was so cute in there. He's all ears, as I said. Did I do another page? Was that it? No, that was it. But what I really wanted to show you, I'm so excited because, as I mentioned last week, I am going to Antarctica. So I'm starting. Is this too bright?
No, we see.
Is that better? Okay.
So
Yeah, so getting ready for the trip, and I was just putting in a couple of maps.
and that current of water that was going around Antarctica, which we learned about last time, so interesting.
Yeah, really interesting. And that gyre from the Ross Sea, we'll be on the other side. I'll be up on the peninsula, and Point Blue's research is actually going down. It's happening down in the Ross Sea. And you know, the maps are so much more fun when you get somebody to just drop in and say hello.
Oh, what fun. Will you be making it below the Arctic Circle?
I think so. So yeah. Yes, I think we will be, because we'll be we're starting up in the Shetland Islands on King George Island, and then cruising along the Antarctic Peninsula. Hello. So I think we'll have 24 hours of sunlight, and I have a feeling we'll be up at all hours looking at wildlife.
Oh boy.
And,
you can sleep when you get back.
Yeah, so been practicing.
Oh, look I love the foot up there. Foot.
Yeah.
Penguin practice pages. What wonderful shapes. What wonderful shapes.
They're so fun to draw. And thank you for bringing out the Tombow pens, because I realized, I need to pack, my range of Tombow pens and get some darker values than I've been doing here. And it's such a quick, easy way to do it. This is from last week's class. It was so much fun.
Yep. The little can of beans there.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, so I'm psyched.
That is so exciting, and oh man, when you get back, it'd be really fun to geek out through that journal.
Yes, and I will track where the sun goes in its oval. We'll do a Antarctic henge, right?
Yes, yeah. If you could get some form of a hinge geek out going.
Yeah, in fact, I should set that up pre-trip in my journal and kind of lay out how I'm going to do that, and then maybe I'll talk to you about what times and how to measure it. I know with a 1 potato, 2 potato method. So
your arms straight. Yep.
And I guess my compass will work there. I mean, isn't everything north? If you're at the South Pole, isn't everything north?
Well, so
I won't be at the pole.
So you want to find out like what for the places where you're going to be, what
Yeah.
are the magnetic declination changes?
Ah, yes.
And then you can calibrate your compass for those areas. And if you're going to be moving to a different place, the closer you get to the south magnetic pole, the more things get squirrely.
Okay.
So
I'm writing that down.
it was also like, how much fun would it be to have something that was really kind of like to really play with? How do I record changes in the magnetic field as I'm moving around close to that pole?
Yeah.
And we should look into this. How can we get something that, so it's sort of thinking of like north south this way is one thing. The other would be to think about the dip of the magnetic field as you get closer to the pole there. That would be, I think, also an interesting thing to, I don't know how you would measure that, but if you could, that would be interesting.
Let me know if you have inspiration or answers before I'm leaving a week from tomorrow, basically. I mean,
What compass do you have?
yeah, good question. Because what I usually use is on my phone, and I don't know if that'll work there. So, and I think I have an old-fashioned compass, but I'm not even sure where it is.
By any chance, are you going to be down near San Mateo?
Not planning on it right now, but let's
I could
talk.
do a compass handoff to you if
Mhm.
yeah, I think it would be really interesting to see what is going on with the
Yeah.
changes in the magnetic field. So yeah, and then look up like what if you're going to be bringing a regular compass,
Mhm.
kind of like for when you're here, like what is the declination doing? So declination being the changes, true north and magnetic north and true south and magnetic south. They're not at all the same thing. And like I wonder where the south magnetic pole is. I know like the north magnetic pole over time it's been drifting around.
Yeah.
And so like maps that I have that my dad had, USGS maps, where they show you the declination change, those are now different. That's fun.
Whoa. Just in that amount of time. Wow.
Yeah.
Huh.
So, interesting.
Amazing. Okay. We'll talk.
Oh, we'll talk.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. It's great to see you and have a wonderful time there. So again,
Okay.
Ann Chadwick is with Point Blue Conservation Science, one of the world's leading organizations for combining research, scientific research and conservation. How can we understand the behavior of the planet better to make better conservation decisions? Thank you for the work that you're doing, and I hope it's a fantastic time.
Thank you, Jack.
Well, if we're going to do just sort of in Valerie, do you have any nature journal pages that you have that sort of show adventures from up there? Maybe we could each sort of do a share. Maybe if they're not on hand, don't worry about it. But if they are, we'd love to see what's happening in your notebook.
Oh, but we can't hear you, Valerie.
Oh.
Unfortunately, they're not handy. We had a huge public introductory speak at our local library, Missoula, and all my journals are packed up because they were all on exhibit there. So they're downstairs in my car.
Yeah,
So
no worries. So I'm going to do just a quick little journal share here, and then maybe we'll close up. Oh, we've also got a Susan in the house. Susan, do you have any thoughts on measuring the dip of the Earth's magnetic field? Let's bring And
Well, I've only just begun thinking about it when you asked, but so yeah, there must be a way. I mean, people have done this, right? But so I had a thought. The trouble with the compass is that the needle can only really rotate in one plane,
right.
and we typically hold the compass relatively flat so that the plane is parallel to the Earth's surface. And for most of the Earth, I think, as we're generally aware, the magnetic field vectors run roughly parallel to the Earth's surface, close enough that that's doable. So I get you could just try tilting the compass in different directions and see which ones the compass points most effectively, but I'm not sure that that would be a good way to see what is the actual direction of those vectors. So a thought that I did have is, the old experiment that I remember doing this as a kid in elementary school, where you magnetize a needle by running a magnet along it, and then you sort of float the needle on something in a body of water, so that
Yeah,
it can
you
turn
like
freely.
put it on a piece of toilet paper and put that toilet paper in the water, and then the toilet
Right.
paper thing, needles left on the surface tension.
Right. And so then again, now it has the ability to rotate in a plane. It's not likely to tilt up or down. But so it occurred to me, could you just tie a tiny thread to the center of the needle? Like, you'd have to get it right at the center of the needle center of mass. Otherwise, gravity is going to play a big role in what way it tilts. But so maybe you could do that, and then it might be able to turn freely. But I think it would be difficult, because if you didn't get the thread right at the center of mass of the needle,
Right.
then the gravity is going to cause it to tilt in a direction that is not related to the magnetic
And when
field.
you're tying it on, you're already in the place with that magnetic field, so that then when you'd be tying that string, would be already affected by the magnetic field pole in.
Yeah, unless before you magnetize it, you do the tying then, although you'd probably end up moving the string, but you could put a little dot on it. So I don't know. I think it is very much an I don't know. Let's try some things. And I hope you can bring needles with you on the plane. By the way, incidentally, I don't know if you know this, but the nearby town near me, Schenectady, has a very small airport, which is the only airport in the Northern Hemisphere that has direct flights to Antarctica.
Wow.
I don't know why they fly directly to Antarctica when it seems like it would be more fuel efficient to carry less fuel and make some stops along the way, but they do.
Yeah, that sounds crazy, because there are no airfields that can take a big plane.
Right. So this is not the commercial airport that I would normally fly out of if I fly from here. This is a little tiny airfield that just has like some people can fly their small private planes in and out of, and they do have flights to Antarctica. Yeah. I think there's some research facility or something that does that. But again, I don't know why they wouldn't fly partway, stop and refuel, because fuel's heavy, especially in a small plane. But yeah, they do. So. Someday, if I join you, Anne, I'll maybe I'll fly out of there. We'll see. But yeah, so yeah, I will keep thinking about this. I'm sure we'll all keep thinking about the. Ooh, Bethany has a link to magnetic dip.
And
there must be a way. Like, this must be a thing people have.
Also, it looks like
done.
it looks like Valerie is waving. So I want to make sure that if Valerie has to go, that we thank her. We make it a point to thank her.
Oh, Valerie, thank you so much for being with us.
Well, thank you. I have a meeting with the folks from Yellowstone, so I need to go. I'm very, very sorry. Thank you so much for this opportunity to share about the rendezvous.
No. Thank you so much for setting up a great opportunity for people in the nature journaling community. And also thank you for what you're doing for the community and the mentorship that you are giving. Again, anybody who's starting a program in your area, a nature journal club, Valerie is there to help you out, and we really, really deeply appreciate that.
Not a problem.
One of your main moderators on Facebook, club leader, somebody who's helping with the mentorship, somebody who created the guidelines that were giving us fits in the Facebook group. She is a superstar. I just had to say that before she goes. Valerie Bayer is amazing, and more people need to sing her praises. So we
Oh,
love you, Valerie. We love you.
you're way really, really too kind. It's, it all takes a team effort to further this practice, and there are so many wonderful players in it. So I'm just trying to keep up with everybody. But thank you, thank you, Jack. And I'm gonna go talk to the people at Yellowstone so we can make some arrangements.
All right. Well, thank you.
Thank you very much. Good to
Take
see
care.
everybody. Maybe there we go.
So what are you curious about these days, Susan?
Well, I have a mystery. This is actually a mystery from a little bit ago, but we'll have to see how things continue on and sort of what happens in the spring. But you know how I do love plants grown into spectacularly the wrong shape. So here's this. But yes, I was this is actually from back in the fall, but I have not had a chance to share it, but I was excited. I found this sumac bush in the Albany pine bush area, as they are kind of clearing out the forests and invasive black locusts that have come in and they clear things out. One of the very common plants that grows in there is sumac, and a lot of the areas that are part of the pine bush that they maintain, they mow every few years, as well as burning them to maintain the open habitat. So we have some sumacs that tend to grow not into really big trees. They're not big trees anyway, but they grow relatively small kind of bushy trees. But I noticed this one by the side of the trail had this weird growth at the top. Wow. And it doesn't look like sumac flowers, which would have been much earlier in the summer. And it doesn't look like berries, which were already pretty shriveled at this time. But this was grown. It wasn't all dried out or anything. Here it was by the side of the trail. There's a little thumbnail there. Here's the fence where there's an open trail. And here's the one. And there was this weird mass where it was like too many things trying to grow all at once, and it seemed like it had the structure almost of the way the flowers grow, because they grow in very big clusters that they're kind of similar size. But the things themselves, here I've realized actually that my pencil seems to have kind of faded, so I may have to go in with some more pencil. But the things themselves, this is very blown up here.
Tiny leafy thing.
They're not leaves, but they're kind of leafy, but they're very, 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 very curvy. I would say they have negative curvature, which is what makes them so crinkled up.
Are there aphids or something living inside them?
That's a good question. I don't know. I picked a few of them apart. It didn't seem like there would be a place for an aphid to live, but you're thinking it could be some kind of a gall or something?
Like an aphid fort or a thrip fort.
That's an interesting question. Well, so okay, let me go back to a previous page here, because last year I was observing some sumacs in the same general area. If I can find it, here we go. This is actually from a different area, but there were sumacs in the same area that had these galls. I think I did show this before, but these were actually, now let's see. So the sumac that I drew this on is a what am I blanking on the name? A staghorn sumac, which is very fuzzy, like a stag's horn in velvet. And the one that I was showing before is a smooth sumac, but they both grow in the same area. We see them tend to grow all intermixed in this area. And I've seen these galls on both kinds of sumac. So, and these ones actually, I did break one open. These ones do have the aphids in there. And this was last year. I did a little research on them and found out that they are, in fact, the staghorn sumac aphid. And they're very cool. They have two life stages. One inside the gall, where they do asexual reproduction. And the aphids you give live birth to more clones of themselves. And then in a different part of the year, they go and they attack a totally different kind of plant. And that's when the males actually start being born, and then they have sexual reproduction. And produce a new life stage. They're very, very cool. So that's a very interesting question. I had not thought of the possibility of there being aphids. From when I inspected these leaves, they didn't seem like there would be any room for anything to live in these little thingies here, because they're very flat, but they're kind of juicy. They're kind of succulent. But it's entirely possible there could be aphids just in amongst those. I don't know. But the thing also I noticed, though, and I'm kind of suspecting that there might be a fungal thing or something, because it seems to be affecting the growth of the plant overall. Because one of the things I noticed was that the leaves lower down, they're compound leaves. So this whole thing here is one leaf with individual leaflets.
Yep.
And the leaves lower down look fairly normal. In fact, here's my little diagram here. Leaves lower down are basically normal sumac leaves.
Yep.
The higher up they get, the weirder they get. So we started to get ones up here where some of the leaflets were conjoined.
Yeah.
And here's some more conjoined, and then some up higher up. And there were a few. I did some sketching here where it's like now the leaves themselves have like negative curvature, and the veins start branching, which they don't generally branch. And all kind of weird stuff here. And it's all crinkly and doing all kinds of strange things. This was a whole leaf that had two actual leaflets, and then this stuff here, instead of having a bunch of leaflets all the way down.
That's really weird.
So it's making me think that there might be some kind of like a fungal thing or an infection in the plant that's causing it to causing different structures to all do this thing. Like maybe it's causing the leaves to grow weirdly in one way, and it's causing the flower producing structure to try and produce something at the wrong time of year and produce something weird. Because I don't know. I've heard of situations where plants will, like, where it should be producing a flower, it will produce a bunch of leaves instead, and stuff. So I don't know. It's very strange. So I want to investigate this more and see what happens next spring. And
this obsession with plants growing spectacularly the wrong way. That is so much.
When things go wrong with plants, it's so interesting, and also they hold still, so you can draw them.
That does help.
So yeah, anyway, that's my mystery. We'll have to see where it goes.
Susan, thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
That's really, really fun to kind of get into your brain again.
Thank you. The bears were unbearably interesting.
Oh. Let's see. I'm going to add the Mad Botanist into the scene here. What's been going on with your journal, or in your brain lately?
Oh, I'll try to be fast because I also saw Ray Bonto was raising his hand. No, first of all, as I said in the chat, but I'm going to say again out loud, Susan, if you ever decide that you're going to create and publish a book called Plants Grown Spectacularly into the Wrong Shapes, I'll buy it. I'll fly to, I'm already going to fly to New York at some point to see you. I'll fly to New York. I'll make you autograph my book, and then I'll drag you back to California with me so you can do a book tour. I would be so down for that. Someday I have questions for you that I want to ask you about patterns in nature, this book I'm reading, that I know, I don't remember the name of your field because words get jumbled, but morphology, geographical planes, like whatever field it is that you are the expert in, with the forms, I have questions for you about patterns in nature. So let's talk.
Topology time with Susan?
What's that?
Topology time with Susan?
Thank you. Topology. Thank you. And yes, absolutely. This is just, I'm just going to share this just because it's not exactly like a New Year's resolution, but I'm just feeling really inspired and I want to make myself jumpstart into something. But so people know I've got kind of an obsession with doing habitat restoration. I finished Monoceros 2 finally. I'm so inspired by everybody here that I'm going to push myself by saying this to start Monoceros 3. I just have to find a good journal for the field. I've been trying this one out, but it's not really holding watercolor very well. I might get another one of Jack's, or like if anybody has any suggestions for field journals. But yeah, I just wanted to, I'm not going to show everything, but I just wanted to say I'm finally finished with most of it. I have to go back and, color in a few things at the front. but I got most of these done. I've got more to do. I might do some of these so I can watch my own process by recording them. But some interesting notes for me was about how I need to take more data more consistently. So I'm thinking maybe I need to designate like the first Tuesday of every month to begin to do this. Because some of the questions that I've been asking were about native plants, who's flowering today, and then looking at the distribution of, or rather the frequency of that compared to the introduced. And then to see if there are certain times of year where only the introduced are flowering or only the native plants are flowering, or do the introduced ones have a longer flower period? And also, eventually, my plan is to go and dive deeper and learn about which insects have relationships with each of these, both introduced and native. And the reason why I'm doing it that way is because I don't want to take for granted the introduced relationships that might have formed, because we're usually, when we think about doing restoration work, we think about just simply yanking out all of the introduced, but we also know that life continues and relationships grow. And as a few of you know, I did something rather silly on my birthday and I wandered through what I thought was supposed to be a nice innocent let's see here, understory of some eucalyptus, and Jack managed to spot the poison oak hiding in it, and I didn't notice it. And I forgot that poison oak likes to hug eucalyptus and climb it and BFF it, even though they grew on two completely different continents. And so if you've got something like poison oak that's befriending eucalyptus, and then you've got certain butterflies like the monarchs that like to dangle from the eucalyptus, even though we think of eucalyptus as being, to use the word that I'm taught, really invasive here in California, if that kind of interaction's happening, I want to make sure that when I'm looking at the introduced plants and their interactions with the bugs, that I'm not accidentally messing something up by either pulling them too fast or by not having some other plant there that can fill that similar niche. So some of the questions that I've been asking. And so I'm not going to take very long. I'm just, because some of these pages are more blank than I wish, but it's also been an exercise in accepting that I'm not going to, some pages I'm going to leave half finished because it's really, really challenging to do journaling while you're holding a pickaxe in your other hand. So I'm going to be okay with that. This was a particularly beautiful day in the understory here, and with fog and mist all around. And I wound up staying a little bit afterwards, and I happened to see these birds. These are field sketches, so they're not going to be perfect, and that's okay. This is a friend who I made a couple of years ago who I initially called the mustache snowdrop bird, and later on have come to identify them as being fox sparrows. So there's that. There was discovering about the corkscrew here with the wild mustard. Sorry, with the wild mustard here. And then later on, when I was pulling out a radish and it broke, I decided to try the corkscrew method by yanking the root this other way, and it came out just like a corkscrew. Fascinating. Lots of writing. Some days where I wanted to see, like, how will this work if I only do this particular area and I microweed, trying to learn the cotyledons of these, because if you can pull them up early, you save yourself work. Yeah. Let's see here. Birthday cleanup from last year, pulling up these wretched petals. And then this year I saw actual real petals in the same place as the old fake ones, and that made me happy because it means people are growing. So just a few little things that I do, learning more about birds. And then in this case, overlapping and seeing in little miniature sites within my site, which places have the same birds and then which ones don't. So I gave myself names for my mini sites so I could compare. That's kind of fun. And yeah, some pages are a bit more blank. That's okay.
Yeah. Well, this is you use so many. I love your little nose icons too. So many different strategies. Sometimes you're doing a portrait. Sometimes you're making a map. Sometimes you're doing a diagram. Sometimes you're doing a landscape ito. Sometimes you're doing a list. Sometimes you're questioning. So many strategies here.
So yeah, I just wanted to say that this is done, and this is all thanks to the nature journaling community that I did this at all. I've been long wanting to find a way to make my stewardship work feel like it was more meaningful to me, and nature journaling gave me that. the last pages I filled were I was taking a long walk in this area called Downstairs that is completely filled and overwhelmed with Cape ivy, and trying to think about ways I could tackle it and ways that I could pull things out and make it more doable for myself. And then a few butterfly notes. And that was it for now. I'll probably go back to do a little bit more data, extra data, quantifications, a little bit of extra drawing things out, making things a little bit clearer to myself, as long as I don't erase any of the original data. But sort of like, I was thinking I could go through and draw a little icon of each bird that appeared in each month. So then that way I can start to notice, just if I have a bunch of drawings of birds on one page, then I'm like, oh, this is that month for, a whole bunch of birds. Or I can also that way track, when does this bird show up? And so I've got some ideas about what I'm going to do more with the data. But now the hard part is going to be setting up the next nature journal, to make it so that I can use it as a really good tool in the field. I always welcome suggestions. Thank you for letting me share that. And thank you everybody for all of your encouragement over the last however many years I've been doing that. And one last thing. I'm going to have to cover part of this because I don't know about people. Yeah. But I went out for my birthday recently with a certain dear friend, which I'm very thankful that we had that day. We went out to Bayview Hunters Point. First, I was very nervous because I didn't want to do anything that felt condescending to a community that has not historically been treated well. But I consider that community, since it's in my same city, and since we share watersheds, that my responsibility to take care of any place in my watershed. So we picked up 3.5 bags of trash.
Yep.
We saw a whole bunch of cool things among the trash. We saw a woodpecker. We saw fungi. We saw certain kinds of trash, swishers being the cigars that people smoke, and then a certain kind of scary thing Jack found 7 of. And it's a reminder that even in a neighborhood that should be safe, that like we'd like to think it's safe because this is right by a schoolyard, that it's not always safe there. And we find evidence of that in the trash. So I also like, trash is interesting to draw because it doesn't just teach about trash and what nature we're trying to protect. It teaches about our habits. It tells us something about the people who might be in the neighborhood, and also about the influences that come in from outside. And it gives us an opportunity to have empathy for people. So how do we feel if our kids are going to a place without this stuff around? And how do we feel if our kids are going to a place where this is within the school, like within school walking distance? And so that's another reason to do this. It's not just for nature, it's also for empathy towards us. Thank you for letting me share.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Vea. What a wonderful project, and exciting to see it kind of come to a close, and wondering what the next 3.0 will be.
Thank you.
Well, with that, perhaps we should close our little workshop for the day. Vea, thank you so much for helping manage the logistics of it, to get me to the program on time, and to help wrangle things as my video system collapsed. We came up with a little bit of a jury-rigged thing with my phone, which has now run out of battery. But we got through the day. I'm going to try to figure out how to get my system back up and running again. Folks, thank you all for being here. It's great to see you again, and I look forward to this coming year of other adventures and curiosity, and what ideas we come up with. It's going to be a lot of fun, and I'm glad we're doing this together. Until next time, be kind, go play in nature, bring that journal along, and let's see how much we can make of this one beautiful chance we get to be alive together. Take care.
Thank you so much, Jack.
Thank you.